Hello and welcome to another Tuesday Talk with Ruby Reese. My name is Killian. I am, of course, co-founder at Ruby Reese and at dognutrition.ie, and I will also be your host for this podcast episode. This week we have a very interesting guest on. It will be the other co-founder at Ruby Reese and at dognutrition.ie, who's Chris, who's been on before, and we'll be chatting about the really interesting topic of home-cooked diets. This week, really looking forward to digging into that type of topic because we love nutrition. We're so passionate about it. And of course, we started our journey with Ruby Reese as a product line and a brand, as well as our journey to becoming certified nutritionists because our own dog Ruby had allergies or has allergies, and we took quite a long time to get them under control, and we did work with vets and nutritionists and professionals, but we also saw lots of products on the market that just were missing the mark for dogs with allergies and things like that. So it got us really interested. We started off down that rabbit hole a couple of years ago, and we're still digging deeper as we speak. So without further ado, I think it's worthwhile now getting that other nutritionist onto the line and letting you listen into the conversation that we have. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the podcast. Better to say even welcome to your podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
Well, you're going to see a whole lot more of this because you'll be editing it as well. But maybe for anyone that might not know you yet, would you do us the pleasure of introducing yourself, please?
Yeah. So my name is Chris. I'm a certified canine nutritionist, and I'm co-founder of Ruby Reese and dognutrition.ie.
Where are you based in the world?
In Cork, in Ballincollig. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. And today we're going to talk about a really cool topic. It is about home-cooked diets. I suppose some might call it controversial if they want it to be controversial. Some might call it really interesting because I know that there's lots of people that are interested in getting into it. We have loads of different pieces of information about this. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into it. First of all, let's just try and define what we're even talking about. So home-cooked diets, what even are they?
In the end, it's just the basic term for a cooked diet. So you take some ingredients, you cook them for your dog and give them to your dog. This is basically what it is. The rest is very versatile. I think we will coming to this now in a second.
Absolutely. So in its broadest definition, it's a DIY style diet, like other people might have heard of raw feeding. So home cooked diets are kind of a cooked variation of kind of that stream of thought as well. Exactly. Okay, good. So there's obviously, we're going to talk through a lot of the pros and cons, but first of all, maybe let's try and compare them to other foods. First of all, maybe people might be wondering, are they better or worse than kibble?
Better and the worst thing, it's always so hard to say because in the end, I have to say no, they're not better or worse. Whether or not, there are just different. I mean, in the end, if you have a very bad kibble, then definitely a home-cooked diet is better. Mm-hmm. But if you have a very good kibble and your home-cooked diet is not good or not balanced, then the good kibble might be better.
Yeah.
So that's why you can't really say, is it better or worse? It depends. What you're comparing apples and pears here, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say that in all the different categories of dog food that there are better and worse kind of options, and there are better and worse, within their own category as well, like a really bad kibble, a really good kibble, and then also variations on raw done well and badly, and also for this diet that we're speaking about now, the home cooked diet, you can also have it done really well, but doing it badly probably isn't going to be very good for your dog.
Absolutely. The quality of the ingredients, the the balance of the ingredients. It's everything in it, no oversupplies, no undersupplies, and all these things. All these things matter, and yeah, you can't really say this form of feeding is better than the other.
Mm-hmm. And someone might be sitting and listening into this at the moment and thinking, I feed raw at the moment. I don't know a whole lot about home cooked. Maybe could we draw a comparison there? What's going to be different for me if I'm doing this?
So it is not so different, to be honest with you. I mean, you have to make there are a few differences, obviously. But for example, if it comes to the amounts of meats versus vegetables, it's basically the same. We're talking 80, 20, 70, 30, something like this. It depends on what you want to include in the home cooked diet, but this is the same for raw. So this is actually very similar. You can't use these mixes and all these things you would feed in like for raw diet. But yeah, I think we were talking about this in a second. But basically, it is very similar. You would take a good meat. For home cooked diets, we normally shop in the supermarket. So this is something very easy and handy to do. You don't need a lot of storage space, which is a very good thing. And you just get the meat, and then you add some vegetables. You might add some carbohydrates, and that's basically it from the majority of the ingredients.
Mm-hmm. And then you're just talking about balancing out kind of the micronutrients, your vitamins, your minerals.
Absolutely, because
kind of included.
Absolutely, because I think this is the major difference then between them two. While in a raw diet, the dog can take all these nutrients and vitamins and minerals from the bones, from the offal, from the vegetables. When we cook them, some of them are destroyed. So we have to add them in afterwards. Mm-hmm. You can do this by adding in some offal afterwards, or you use some supplements, and there are very good ones out there. But yes, you have to add them afterwards again. Yeah.
And of course, one part of the nutritional piece as well is going to be very, very different between raw and the home cooked, being the calcium source, right? Because you're not going to have cooked bones. I think it doesn't take an expert now to reiterate the importance of not feeding your dog cooked bones because they get so brittle. But this is going to be different in your home cooked diet potentially, right?
Yeah, this is the main point. You can't use these 80-10-10 mixes because there's normally bone included already. So this is something you can't cook. As said, the cooked bones are very dangerous. They can splinter. They are a choking hazard, even if they are small. Like you can't definitely not cook a rack of lamb or something like this and use the bones in there, or some pork ribs. This is definitely, you shouldn't do this. So this is something you have to add afterwards. I mean, of course, you can add the raw bones afterwards, but you can also use a supplement.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And those would be often kind of like a ground, very fine powder of bone, right? Or something like a really, really fine powdered eggshell kind of calcium supplement, right?
Yeah, so there are different options, obviously. So you can have the ground beef bones or horse bones. It's something you get, which then it's basically the whole bone with some meat on it, just dried and powdered. Eggshell, yes, you can use this, but there's no phosphorus in the eggshell. It's just calcium. This is something you really have to balance out. Very good. And then there are these supplement mixes you have. So it's more like you have everything in one package. And normally there's enough calcium in these ones.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think these kind of pre-made mixes are used in quite a lot of different types of dog foods. Like this is what happens over your kibble as well.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
at the very, very end of the process, or close to the end of the process of making kibble. They're often sprayed with the kind of a nutritious mix to give you the vitamins and minerals. And this would also be something that would potentially be added into a commercial tinned food or anything like that. So
Exactly.
this is not something completely new and wild and a secret mix of herbs and spices. These mixes are kind of quite typical across
Absolutely. And
the,
there's
the, the
nothing wrong with
commercial
these
feed.
ones. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
if,
yeah.
if it's gonna mean the difference between having a balanced diet or not, you definitely
Oh, it's
could consider. Yeah,
it's a very handy thing. I mean, in the end, you can just use natural ingredients, but this is you have to add a lot of different things,
elements. Yeah.
elements to make it very balanced. So these mixes are very handy, and to be honest, most people decide for like they decide just to use these ones because it's just this amount of convenience. It's just
And I suppose
yeah,
the important thing as well to point out is you need to find a starting point. I think it's very, very difficult to say, okay, I'm going to become the expert in everything and take full control of my dog's diet and in the end have an impact on their health and well-being potentially through it. You need to break it down into chunks and say, okay, let's work with what I'm confident with now, and we'll keep going down that path maybe until we come to a point where we say, okay, this is now where the limits of my nutritional expertise are.
yeah,
But I suppose if people are interested in the whole raw conversation, we did release a whole episode on raw just a couple of
exactly.
weeks ago. So that's definitely a recommendation. You were mentioning earlier a couple of other percentages as well. And I just wanted to clarify for people. I suppose in the DIY diets in particular, we're really looking at dogs as a carnivore that can digest some plant fiber, plant
Yeah,
material, or an omnivore that's very carnivorous. I don't want to get into the argument of which is which, because in the end it's a sliding scale, and does it really
absolutely. Yeah,
matter?
no,
Not for this
no, no,
conversation,
no,
at the very
absolutely
least.
not.
It's probably better left to some philosophy class. But in the end, you were talking about 70%, 80%, kind of that kind of region is kind of where you're aiming at for, of course, the meat
For the
content.
meat,
So
for the meat content, yes, yes.
so
It
it's
also depends on if you want to include some grains
yeah,
or other carbohydrates, or if you don't want to, which is totally fine as well. Both are totally okay, because if you have a healthy dog, there's nothing wrong with feeding your dog some grains in form of whatever, a whole grain rice or some oats or something like this. There's nothing wrong with it,
mhm.
as long as your dog is healthy, obviously.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually when you listen to any kind of let's say experts or people that are quite involved in the canine nutrition business in North America in particular. You hear a lot about these ancestral grains, and I think here they're talking about things like quinoa and things like that. And it's
Amaranth is one.
Amaranth,
Yeah,
exactly, and these tend to come up actually quite a lot in the German language books on nutrition as well.
yeah,
It's quite interesting to see, where I suppose every time you talk about nutrition, there's going to be trends of things that are in and out. But I suppose the essence of the point here is that all grains don't have to be a terrible thing for your dog in certain quantities. And I think that's probably the point.
yeah.
Um,
But you don't have to use them. So a dog will be
Absolutely.
totally fine with some meat and
Yeah.
some fiber of any source. It doesn't even have to be vegetables if you don't want to use them, or your dog doesn't want to eat them. There are other sources of fiber you can use. So it's very flexible. I
Yeah.
think this is the most like the biggest advantage of this diet. It is very flexible. You are in full control of what's in your dog's bowl, even
Yeah.
more sometimes than with a raw diet.
Absolutely. And I think like that's kind of a point that's important to bring up, because some people listening in, I'm sure, will say, "Oh wow, there's so much to consider." So that means that I'm in control. I have to take on responsibility. Oh my God! But on the other side, it's, you know, you get the advantage definitely
Yeah.
of being so flexible. And before we get into the pros and cons, I just wanted to touch as well on kind of, I suppose, what might seem to some as an elephant in the room, because of course here we're quite heavily covering the home cooked DIY style of cooked feeding, but there's also commercially cooked food. So do you want to maybe briefly talk about the difference there as well?
Yeah, so I think we have to bring this together with the advantages of a home cooked diet. So in the end, they are basically the same. Like, if you use the same ingredients, you will get, in the end, you will get the same product.
Hmm.
It's just another, yeah, level of convenience, I would say.
Hmm.
You need a lot of freezer space, obviously, because most of them are coming like in frozen form,
Hmm.
which I would recommend if you use uh, one of these. But yeah, like, the only thing which is really different is that you're not in this full control,
Hmm. Absolutely.
but you also don't have some responsibility. So yeah, so I think this is the biggest difference in the end, is that it's more convenient, and on the other hand, that you don't have full control.
Absolutely. And I think, yes, you're right. You don't have control and you can't toy around with the diet. But like you say, I think there might be some people listening in that say, "Oh man, I can't even cook for myself, never mind for the dog. I can't be dealing with all this. I can hardly look after myself."
Yeah,
And this could be a brilliant option. And there's some really good recipes out there from Irish companies as
absolutely,
well.
absolutely. Oh, yeah,
So
we can. I have no problem telling them. Like Phoenix Bark, for example, they have great recipes.
mhm.
They really care about the recipes and the dogs. So
Yeah.
yes, this could be a really good option if you want. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. So I'm delighted that we covered that one up, because it's not really an elephant in the room, and it's
no.
still, I suppose, it falls very, very well within the category. So let's get into some of the pros of the DIY now specifically.
We
So
mentioned it already.
yes, we
You are in full
mentioned
control. You're in
absolutely.
full control. I think this is the biggest advantage. You
Yeah,
really have the control over the quality of the ingredients, which ingredients you use, um, where the energy is coming from. Are they coming from more from carbohydrates, more from fat? Where the vitamins are coming from. I mean, this all sounds like a lot of responsibility, as you said before, but it is not very complicated.
hmm,
Another advantage is definitely the digestibility. So especially
absolutely.
if you have dogs with problems there. So this is a very good one.
And actually, on that point, it's just good to note, because I think in our nutrition courses at the beginning, I was saying, why would a dog with, you know, say kidney problems, kidney disease, or pancreatitis or something like that need more digestibility? And it wasn't making sense to me until one of the lecturers there kind of pointed out, you know, the body's already under so much stress. They were already
Absolutely.
doing other things, trying to keep going. And if you're adding a lot of really difficult to digest material into their diet, then this might add some extra load on there that is just not necessary for that particular dog. So I think the digestibility also comes in, you know, with say senior dogs where their digestion is slowing down a little bit, everything takes
Yeah.
up, their activity levels are a bit lower, just the whole metabolism kind of just starts to chill a little bit.
This
Um,
is recommended anyway, even if you feed raw.
mhm,
If your dog is coming to a certain age, depends on the breed,
yeah,
of course, to change over to a cooked diet.
yeah.
It's not such a big difference just because of the digestibility.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really, really good. And of course, the fact that you can then, you know, that you can have a diet that's quite usually quite easily digestible, or you can make it quite digestible, and then also, you know, that you can tailor it. It can mean that it can be used then in supportive diets for dogs with illnesses. I know I mentioned kidney disease and pancreatitis there, but I suppose you can add and subtract different parts of the diet as needed, right? So
Oh,
for weight
definitely.
loss, weight gain, for puppies, it's quite adaptable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's very adaptable. This is definitely something.
Mhm.
Um, Very good one. Yeah,
And one of the
good
other
point.
points that I had as well, you had mentioned it earlier, but like the possibility to shop in a normal supermarket, this can be really, really useful for a lot of people. Um, and
Yes,
yeah,
we had so many people who yeah, just came to us, said, look, we want to feed raw, but we don't have the freezer space because everything is coming in frozen form.
hmm
Um, what can we do? And then, of course, you can feed the raw meat from the supermarket, but sometimes, yeah, it is definitely a home cooked diet is something, um, especially if you don't have the space, a very good alternative. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, it can be really, really good. And I think it's amazing because I was speaking with one of my friends about these types of diets. We were just talking, he was asking actually particularly about what we do at dognutrition.ie. And we were kind of speaking through the different types of diet. And he was just so surprised that he was completely mind blown that you could go into a supermarket, a
Yeah.
human supermarket, and feed them like he said, human food. And I said, yeah, but that's real food. Like the mangoes don't grow on the trees just for human use. It's kind of like you can. It opens up a world of whole foods that are not necessarily ultra processed junk food, to your dog's diet. And I think obviously asterisks here to say, really, really important to know in this case what human foods
Yeah.
that the dogs might be toxic to or might not just do very well with, like really, really citrusy fruits and things like that. It just mightn't suit their diet very well. But the possibility to shop in a normal supermarket and
Yeah.
to feed whole
Even
foods is brilliant.
shop by season is a very good, like a very important point here. I think a lot of people really like is that you can buy the vegetables which are in season. They're cheaper. This
Mhm.
is yeah. Also
Cheaper.
for the meat, like if you have a sale on whatever 3 4 10 for minced meat or something, minced beef, like, or beef in the end, then why not? Yeah. So these all contribute to this diet. I really like a home cooked diet. It's great. It's really
Definitely. And
great. Yeah.
I think as well, like when you think about, us all living slightly more sustainable lives, we always kind of think about the waste that we have and all the fact that we're now composting our, rotting bananas that we forgot to eat on time. And but if you're already buying, things like potatoes, like carrots, like green beans, whatever. There might be certain things that could be fed to your dog or to your family, depending on who has those needs
Yeah.
in that week. And I suppose when you're shopping, and particularly shopping on a budget, you're often buying kind of more bulk packs, and
Yeah.
rather than throwing away loads of sweet potatoes, imagine if you had the flexibility to be able to incorporate that into your dog's life. I'm not saying that they should be used as a trash can, as a rubbish bin, because that's
No.
that's not that's not what the modern dog should be, not from a nutritional perspective at the very least. But I think it's a good option, right?
Yeah, you have to be careful anyway. Like using your dog as a trash can is not really like
Yeah.
you can feed the same vegetable, but you have to prepare it in a different way.
hmm
I mean, using salt or something like this, you should definitely avoid these things, and too much oil or whatever, like deep fried. There's a difference between a potato and a potato. I mean,
That's right.
so these things you definitely should have in mind. So it's not the same, but you can definitely buy the same ingredients and use them for yourself and your dog. Yeah.
Yes. So when we're talking about eating similar foods, we're talking about the the basic ingredients, not that you
Yeah,
have to go and make a moussaka
exactly.
for your dog. Okay.
Exactly.
So
Just
I
to
can
clarify this, I just don't want people not to say, oh, yeah, okay, then I will give him whatever I eat.
exactly all these
Yeah.
Instagram pages opening up now, moussaka for Mallies. It's going to be an interesting time in Irish dog nutrition. Okay, so maybe let's talk a little bit through the cons. I know we've mentioned some of them. So the big one is obviously the effort of cooking. And that comes down to how you see
Yeah,
cooking in general, right?
exactly. I would say so because in the end, you can meal prep for your dog if you want to. Like with everything in life, as soon as it gets habit, you don't recognize it anymore. So at the beginning, it might be a difference. It might seem like a lot of effort, but in the end, you're cooking anyway. It's just another pot on the stove in the end.
Yeah.
So this is how I see it in the end, like how I see it, how we do it. It's just another pot on the stove. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, you can, and I think sometimes you can over engineer these things as well. Like, I mean,
absolutely.
keep it simple is probably, make it as complex as it absolutely needs to be, but
Yeah,
you don't need to be doing things for the sake of beauty, for the sake of Instagram photos. I mean,
no.
that's fine if you're running an Instagram page specifically for that, but I think in the end things need to be made as complex as they absolutely need to be,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
no further. Um,
And not everything has to be cooked as
mhm.
well. So like you don't have to cook a cucumber. You don't have to cook an apple. So
Yeah,
these things you can give in raw form. This is no problem.
kind of pureed or
Yeah, or just like if you have a Bernese mountain dog, you can
chew
you
through
can have the
everything.
whole cucumber, perhaps. I
Yeah. Well, this is not nutritional advice, just for
don't know.
anyone
No, no, it's not. It's not. It's
that's
not.
thinking about overfeeding cucumber to their
Yeah,
very knees. And I suppose danger of malnutrition is also another big danger, right?
danger of
If it's
malnutrition. Yes.
unbalanced.
Yeah. So you definitely should seek help
Mhm.
or get yourself a good book, which is about home cooking. But look, in the end, if you're in doubt, get yourself a good recipe made by a nutritionist, and then you're on the safe side. And you will get nerdy about this topic anyway.
Mhm.
So, but if you have a good base, then I think this is the key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's,
And
yeah, it's,
in the end, what you're saving on all these big Kibble brands, look, get yourself once a recipe, and then you're then you're happy.
yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
think the support and the education are really, really important, because
yeah,
it is kind of daunting when you first look at it, and it doesn't really have to be. In the end, you can make it really simple for yourself.
absolutely, absolutely.
So now people might be wondering, or did you have another point?
Yeah, and you have to be a bit careful. You can't give everything. I think we mentioned it before.
Mhm.
Bones are something like this. You really have to be careful with these things. So um, it's part of the education piece, I have to say, but still, this is might be a small disadvantage that you can't use everything you used for like in a raw diet. For example, if you want to switch from a raw diet to a cooked diet, you have to consider a few things there as well.
You have to rethink it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so people might be now considering, trying out a home cooked DIY diet. What types of ingredients can we imagine? What types of things are typically used in the home cooked diet? What types of things come into your plans every now and then?
So all types of meat,
Mhm.
from chicken, lamb, beef, duck, whatever, pork, whatever you find in the supermarket, you can use. No prepared mixes, so no burger mixes or something like this, but every solo meat, like solo
Mhm.
protein things. And then for the vegetable parts, you can be, I think this is the most creative part of the whole diet, the fruit and vegetable part, because you can change it every day if you want to. We mentioned already cucumbers and apples, carrots, broccoli, green beans, cauliflower, everything which is not toxic to your dog in the end. So no avocados and grapes, all these things, but everything which is not toxic you can use.
Yeah, and I
think you have to cook.
I think for these things as well, it's important to notice that, you know, we're getting our nutrients really from our meat and either from supplementation or organ meats. So that's kind of where the absolute you know, the absolute majority of the nutritional value is coming from. You're looking for your fruits and your vegetables, like you were mentioning. This is mostly for fiber and for kind of antioxidants and kind of trace kind of bits and pieces of micronutrients that you can get, which are nice to have. But these are the things that you can rotate quite a lot, like you say. Not too much of anything, and
exactly, and especially from some greens like broccoli, kale. These things you shouldn't overfeed, but
without scaring anyone off, they're brilliant ingredients to use, just not worthwhile, you know, saying you should use this every single day in huge amounts. Occasional uses is brilliant, but before we get into the whole thing of oxalates and anti-nutrients and that kind of scare tactics, it's better just to say, listen, you know, keep it varied, and for this conversation at least, it's enough. And talking about rotating, you know, through different ingredients as well, animal proteins, this is always an interesting one. So here you're talking about your beef, your lamb, whatever.
Beef, lamb, chicken, duck, all fine. I personally, I'm not a big fan of using all these exotic proteins. Like, you don't have to give your dog kangaroo or water buffalo or camel, whatever. So we have, like, the thing is, we have a lot of cases. But there's a reason behind it. So I'm taking a little bit more time to answer this question now. So we have a lot of allergy cases, especially here in Ireland. We have a lot of dogs with allergies. What you normally would do to find out which allergy it is, you're doing an elimination diet. For an elimination diet, you have to find a protein which the dog never had before. Never had. Not even a treat. Never. And if, like with all these exotic treat variations you get these days, it's getting really, really hard sometimes to find a protein which the dog had never before.
Exactly.
I'm really glad water buffalo is a thing which we can always go back to, because so far I didn't saw a treat with water buffalo in it, but please don't take this as a challenge. A challenge now.
It's important as well, because I think if, you know, lots of people have dogs that have that seem to be allergic to everything, and quite often is the case is that the gut lining, the gut barrier is damaged, and without turning this into an allergies session, basically your gut is allowing these proteins or particles across the barrier into the bloodstream, and the body is kind of saying, oh my God, this is not supposed to be here, and builds your intolerance, your
antibodies.
Reaction. Your reaction to it. So you're kind of already going to cause yourself problems, because if your dog is in the state of creating allergies basically, and you're throwing at them zebra, antelope, camel, wood pigeon, then you could be kind of crossing things off the list before you can get proper help. And
that doesn't mean that the dog is allergic to these things. It's just we can't rule it out. We have to use one which he is definitely not allergic to, and this is just possible if he never had it before.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, a small rotation of animal proteins. Of course, we're fans of variation, but I think if you stick with the, let's say, normal-ish, and if you really want to pick two, like, you know, pelican and ostrich or whatever, and go wild with those, but like maybe don't use the whole full scale of everything that's on offer in the entire world. Like, you know, you don't need to go giving your dog giraffe treats.
We have to be honest here. Normally, the food here is not the dog food is not the problem. It's more the treats in the end, which are with these exotic. Because let's be honest, we will not find kangaroo in the supermarket here in Ireland. So. All the meats you get in the supermarkets are normally fine.
Yeah.
As a rule of thumb.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you can get more exotic for any of those other cases. Brilliant. Exactly. So a small rotation of animal proteins. We already spoke about our need for supplementation and calcium. And did you want to maybe talk a little bit more now about, you know, how these diets look in the cases for supporting illnesses?
Yes. So supporting illnesses, the home-cooked diet is actually a very good diet to support illnesses. First, and we mentioned this before, the digestibility is very high. So if you have a dog with digestive issues, with gut issues, like basically with every ill dog, you don't want to put too much pressure on the system. We mentioned it before. So especially for the digestive system, like for dogs with problems with digestion and the gut, it's a very good one. And then, like for example, for dogs with pancreatitis, mostly because you have full control over the fat content when we're talking about pancreatitis. So also the digestibility, because you want to put, like, especially with the pancreas, you want to take the pressure off the system. You would normally feed 5 times a day, if possible, just to not over stimulate the gut.
And we've had some really interesting pancreatitis cases where you can really see the difference in the bloods done by the vets afterwards, you know, kind of before, during and afterwards. Fascinating results on kind of near misses with pancreatitis and everything. So it's definitely something that that's not just for your healthy dog, but also a dog that might need it most.
Exactly. And like the home cooked diet, as I said, is very good there because you can take the low fat meat from the supermarket. Chicken breast, for example, is the standard one, if the dog is not allergic. And then, of course, you need the energy from somewhere, so you can use some carbohydrates or something like this. So home cooked is the ideal food there.
Gives you a lot of control. And then kidneys as well, of course. Kidney disease is a huge problem in Ireland.
Kidney disease is an old dog problem. Kidney disease is an old dog problem. Something we can't heal. A vet can't. We definitely can't. But a good plant, like a very good plant diet, can slow it down. So, and the thing is here as well, the advantage of you have full control, because you have to keep the phosphorus amount as low as possible. Depends on the stage of the kidney disease. This would definitely go too far now. And for example, sometimes you need more potassium or less potassium. All these things, it's something you should definitely get planned by a nutritionist, to be honest with you. All these cases, pancreatitis, gut problems, please go to a professional nutritionist. But yes, a home-cooked diet is the way to go here, and it can really make a big, big difference.
And I think it's worthwhile talking about, like, you know, when someone goes to dognutrition.ie, what they actually get. Because I think some people might be listening in and saying, oh, I think I would like to do this. I need to do this, whatever, but it sounds like a lot. I think maybe it's not always evident to everyone. You know, to us it's really obvious what people come out with at the end. But I think it's really, really important for us that our dogs and their owners and their families leave with confidence, that they know what they're doing, that, you know, they feel listened to, and that their lifestyle, the way they want to feed, any issues that the dog might have, and issues maybe it might be the wrong word, you know,
Even joint
peculiarities,
problems,
or
joint problems,
or life
like this.
stage, you know, that it's a puppy, senior, adult dog, you know, that it's a very active dog. We've worked with all of these different types of cases in the past, and these are integrated in. People leave with a plan, with the nutritional breakdown of what they're feeding as well. You know, this is safe for your home cooked. Now you'd leave with your plan as well, right?
So perhaps we start a little bit before what we normally do. We have a consultation where we decide together what ingredients we want to use in a home cooked diet. Depends on which supermarket you're shopping in, what fits your lifestyle, what you are eating a lot, and all these things. So we have tried to find out which ingredients can work for you. Do you want to use grains or not? Which is your dog not touching vegetables at all these things, you know,
and if you're already using a particular supplement that you've seen, you might be using something like green lip mussel that you've already seen great results for your particular dog's joints, and you'd love to incorporate that. Great. We can usually incorporate a lot of different types of supplement.
Yeah. Or your dog is absolutely mad about cottage cheese or something. This is something we can include into the plan. And then what you normally would get is you get an ingredients list for a daily portion, most of the times for a daily portion. And then you get a breakdown of nutrients which is in this combination of ingredients.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a statistical value because every carrot is different, every chicken is different, but it is a very, very good educated guess what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's that there's a big database behind it. You get all these nutrients, so you can really be sure that if you're using this recipe, then your dog is getting all the nutrients he or she needs.
And what I love about this as well is, you know, we love working with other professionals, and this is an amazing way to empower the dog owner or the dog's family to understand a little bit more about their own dog's nutrition and their nutritional needs, but also you know, because we go through the plan with them, then they can talk about it. They actually get it as a digital copy anyway. They can print it out or bring it digitally to their vet and then show the vet, look, this, I'm not going crazy. I'm not just, you know, pulling ingredients off the shelves blindly and home cooking my diet. This is thought through, and this is what's included, and this is the thought that's gone into it. And I think that's fantastic, because that you know, can often, I'm sure, help with those conversations with the vets. I feel like sometimes vets feel excluded from a lot of these home cooked and raw conversations, and I think this might be a great way of opening up that conversation and saying, look, this is what we're doing, and no, we're not doing something completely mad. There's been thought put into it, and I think that's really, really nice as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then there's a consultation period usually as well built in there.
Absolutely.
For the questions after.
There would be normally another consultation afterwards where you can answer questions, and it's about transition to the new diet and how to cook and what cook. It's different from person to person, how much cooking experience they have. Some don't have even some No, I don't. I never had the question if how to boil water. No, but
That's good.
it's from too.
Exactly. So I think the important message for people is that there is support out there. There are options out there. It's okay to explore different options and see what's going to work for you and for your dog. And do get the help, or at least.
And it is not complicated.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Exactly.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah, it can be very complicated.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be complicated. So many people said, "That's it." I said, "Yes, that's it." Do you want it more complicated? No.
Exactly. Brilliant. Yeah. I love that as a brilliant way to kind of wrap up the topic, because I think we do love giving people a little bit of confidence in feeding their dogs well. So hopefully that's given you all some confidence. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming onto your own podcast and chatting with me.
Thank you for having me.
And we will chat very soon. And once again, a huge thank you to Chris for coming on and speaking with me this week. I suppose for you listeners, it's really, really important that you understand as well that, it's difficult to listen to recordings of yourself, and I certainly don't do any of the editing of the clips for this podcast or for the podcast itself. It's just something that I can't bring myself to do. So I'm really, really thankful that Chris comes on and has a chat with me, because he is the one tasked with editing all of this media afterwards, and it is quite difficult thing to do because we're all critical of ourselves and how we sound and what we've said. So it's so appreciated on that point as well. If you're listening in and are really interested in finding out more about dognutrition.ie, about Ruby Reese, about the products that we offer, about the products from other brands that we really, really believe in and stock, and our social media handles and all the rest of it, then you can check out our links in the show notes. We're running this podcast now with over a year. Previous to that, we were doing these as Instagram lives. You can go back and see all of the recordings on our website, actually, and you can find loads and loads of the podcasts as well. Until from the very beginning of we started doing this as a podcast, and I think there must be over 60 episodes now on Spotify and Apple Music and the rest of it. So loads of podcasts to go back and check in on with really, really great speakers. Lots of really interesting ones coming up as well, with many of them in the pipeline. So really looking forward to having you listen in again. Of course, it would really help this podcast format if you give us a like or a subscribe or a follow or whatever you can do on the platform you're listening to this on. It's really appreciated. If you've already done all those things, then you can send this episode or any episode that you think might interest them to your friends, to your family, to your granny, to your local media news outlet, whoever you'd like to send it to that you think might benefit from it. Please do that as well, because it really helps us to grow and get this information and the great knowledge that these guests bring to the show out to a wider audience who I'm sure will appreciate it as well. Thank you very much for listening in. We'll be back to you with another episode in just a fortnight. So thank you and see you again soon.